the new government and what that looks like, I think we are all starting to feel the impact of that outcome. And I will leave it at there so I don't get into trouble.
Does that answer your question? Abai, tēnā tātou. I think about us as kaimahi Māori and potentially organisations or systems that weren't designed for our people. And in relation to this question number 3, I'm a kaimahi Māori working in or for my organisation. How can I strengthen the hononga between other organisations mo te oranga tonutanga o te iwi Māori? Or in English, how can we strengthen, like this question on number 3 here, the collaboration between healthcare providers, community organisations and whānau? I'm thinking about our corrections whānau here, who sometimes you don't have a whānau. And so how can we do that as a hapori, inclusive of hapori, inclusive of our mahi? And we'll fling the kaupapa on that side. To you fellas. What do you do as a kaimahi Māori in your organisation to help your people or strengthen the hononga?
Whakawhanaungatanga. So hono, I'm genuine, because if I want genuine, honest answers from our whānau, which I do at all times, then I need to be genuine too. So I'm real. I just ground them and say, I'm ringing you again for your appointment on Wednesday. If you could get back to me, yeah, just be real.
Yeah, pass the mic around.
I think that whakawhanaungatanga is really important, and relationships that we share across the sectors, so not just the health sector, but you know, we have a lot of whānau working in different spaces, and our relationships are really key to help hononga our different groups that are doing similar mahi, but in different sectors. And so whakawhanaungatanga, really important, but intentionally staying open, because we do get stuck in our lanes sometimes. You know, we're working in the hospital, mahi ata mahi, and we've got to look up sometimes and continue to intentionally reach out and network and whakawhanaunga with our whānau. And so even a day like today, we're doing it here. Hopefully there'll be more connections made and more opportunities made to share our mahi, but also share our time and resources and other kaupapa as well. So I think that whakawhanaungatanga and intentionally bringing together lots of our whānau that are working across all the different sectors, that's how we do it. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. I think the vision behind Tākiri 2, as I spoke about this morning, wasn't just to put more of our primary health services in there. It was to bring those services from the hospital, from Whatu Ora, in. It was to bring them in, give them a place and a space where they could operate in the community. And I think that we have to be very deliberate about the things that we do, even if most people don't even see that you've got a vision for something beyond yourself, or even a vision beyond the work that you are doing. And I think that that's really very important. And I've just been reminded that we are also in the corrections space. We are in the probation space, and we take men who are on bail or who are on probation in the community who've got nowhere to go. And so a lot of the work that we do within that space is healing, because so many of them come out broken. And there are so many of our people who are in our communities who are broken, who actually need a space and a place to gather themselves, find themselves within a really positive environment. And as much as of course, a lot of people, the prison system is what the prison system is. My biggest fear around all of that is now that the corrections is now becoming a mental health institution. Now, to me, that there is red flags, and it's health. We need to think about everything we do, including our environment, in terms of health and the impact that that has on us. And every single one of us has a part to play in that. Kia ora.
Anything to add?
I think the only thing that I might like to add to this kōrero, I was looking at question 3 and question 4, is what would work for you to integrate your services with other services. Having worked for over a decade in the work and income space as a public health nurse, as the nurse for work and income, not just regionally, but it ended up being nationally, and understanding, I will speak from a corrections point of view, what that looked like for people who have been released back into the community. And we've got some really great services out there. And I guess this is what I want to say to you. We may have the service, but you must have the people that can continue the service. Because what I was finding was people were being, oh, go see that one, go see that one. And they were just being referred because it was a referral process and they were ticking the box. And I don't mean this just for anyone in the community providers, but I mean Māori as well, right? Don't be a tick box, please, because it doesn't work for our people. But actually, if you're gonna put your hand up and say, I want to help, and I really want to acknowledge Tūreiti, Lady Moxon here. I have been sitting with her on a few occasions where we've talked about what things might look like. If you put your hand up for a service, then from start to end, make sure that our people get the help that they need until they are properly serviced. Don't refer them on and think, oh, I've done my job, because I can tell you now, it didn't happen. And so that's what I would say in response to that question. Whānau, our people need you, but they don't need someone who's just going to say, I'll make a phone call to such and such. Yes, I've done my job for the day. But actually, what are you going to do to make sure that they get the help that they need at the time that they need it? And then make sure that once you've put them in the place that they're okay and that they can continue on in the community. Kia ora.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Can you hear us? Ka whakai, ka tautoko marika, hau ki e nā kōrero. I think about our whānau and the system, again, that wasn't designed for us. And what our whānau need most is familiar faces in those spaces. And if we were to take your organisation and put it into Māori framework on the marae, would it look the same? Would it look the same? And I think, you know, I take my hat off to he te maraikuna e Tūreiti I o mahi, I o kaha, whakapau kaha, whakaheke wera in this space, because that's what we're doing with Te Kōhao, is we're able to do that. And many other hapori mahi around here, we are trying to fit the, for lack of better words, Pākehā framework into ours rather than the other way around, because I see that happening heaps. How can we be more Māori in my organisation? Ne. Any questions from you, Henemo, or anything to add?
Kia ora. Can you hear me? Ding! Just as you're talking about that, and I'm looking at the top of our questions about traditional healing practices being incorporated into healthcare, and I know that we absolutely are championing and seeing a lot more rongoā Māori in our spaces, and when I say that, I don't mean just rongoā as we may know it, plant-based balms and that kind of thing. I mean all the way. I was looking at Lady Tūreiti's presentation and the idea that whakairo is rongoa. Taonga Puoro is rongoa. There are so many mātauranga Māori disciplines, and I wonder if we've considered all of the ones that can actually be rongoa, if we've transferred that. So my question is, based on what you were saying, Libby, everyone up here has worked really hard at identifying and connecting with and te whiri or integrated services. So if we're looking at services from a te ao Māori lens, are there any integrated services that aren't on the board yet, that aren't in our design yet, the designs that you're all working in? And if there are, what are they? What are those secret little source things that are happening out in the communities that should be an integrated service?
That's a hard question.
Well, I tell you, one of the biggest things that happens when a tane or a whānau member comes into Pūtikitiki. That's the name of our residential service for our men who have come out of prison but have nowhere to go. They take them down to the awa and they do the puri and they karakia, and they, if they're brave enough, will go under if they're brave enough. And the idea of that is that was the life they had previously. This is the life you're going into now. And I think some of the biggest issues that a lot of our whānau face is that they are very disconnected from our own reo, from our own ways of doing, from their marae, from all of those support systems that actually ground us as Māori. And that is one of the things that they have started to do. Now, rongoa is not just like a miracle pill. Rongoa is something of a way of doing and believing and thinking and being in yourself, because a lot of people have been told they're being useless from the time they were born. And if they believe that all the way through their lives, it is hard to turn that negativity around. So we've got to demonstrate it. We've got to show it in lots of different ways. And so, they come, these men who don't have, the majority now have jobs. Majority that are living in the whare have jobs. And we have moved people out into their own whare. They have reintegrated with their whānau. That's all a part of healing. And the beautiful thing about rongoa coming back into our lives is that it reminds us of the beauty of the things that actually heal us, that surround us, that we've lost touch with. Our bush, our ngahere, our awa, our moana. And we've lost those arts. When we were kids, we used to go ealing a lot. I mean, you'll hear that in those boot camps. You'll hear that in things that are not everyday things. It's the everyday positive stuff that we miss, that is missing. So we talk to them in a language that a lot of people don't get. So that in doing these sorts of things, in doing that ritual of saying, that was your life then, this is your life now, it makes a huge difference to that maybe I can do this. So, and all of you have the power. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora. Wow, that's very similar sentiments actually. The missing components in here, and I think it really talks to we're still working in a model. We're bringing our Te Ao Māori to the table, but sometimes it doesn't feel safe to infuse those components into the environments that we're working in, but that's the missing component to that's what I see into our integrated care. We had the privilege of attending the World Indigenous Cancer Conference earlier this year. So we had whānau from all over the world attend, including Norway. And the unifying factor, you know, although our statistics are quite dire when it comes to cancer, that wasn't the most palpable unifying thread amongst all of us as Indigenous peoples. It was our interconnectedness with all living things, you know, that kōrero kept coming through over and over again, our holistic view about what keeps us well, you know, our connection to our whānau, connection, ensuring that our hinengaro was in line with our wairua, and the environment, the taiao was key also in terms of our ongoing healing, and the strength of that connection to our taiao was really important. And so I think within our integrated care services, that's something that we're really mindful of, that we haven't infused that component into, certainly into whiri. And so we're looking to try and do that in one of our research projects with cancer, up in collaboration with the Auckland Cancer Services, is to have a specific, have a rongoa clinic, and rongoa in the broadest term, because you're absolutely right. It's our spiritual health and our mental health across the board we need the tools and mechanisms to be able to tap into that, to really amplify our hauora, and it's something that's not addressed within the current system, and we just need to make more visible mechanism, you know, the mechanisms more visible about how our whānau can tap into that if they're not naturally in that environment, if they're not naturally linked into their whānau or hapu that are already doing things like pure. It's how do we make that available and reconnect, you know, strengthen that connection to our taiao and empowerment.
Can I ask, do we have many palliative nurses in the room today? Oh, okay, that's all right. I was just thinking about the question around integrated care and what that might look like. I've nursed hundreds of people to end of life, and it is a privilege. It's not a right, it's a privilege. And in that space, because you are so closely connected with the person, you get to know, feel, breathe, hear, not just what the person's going through, but the whānau. And so when I was the nurse in work and income, I came to understand that that was a good base for our whānau, because they became the bank. Because how you access the financial support for our people in the community, and not just our people as anyone. I learnt the art of accessing the right services from a financial point of view. And so in that space, many of our people were not ready for end of life. Meaning, how many of us in here have funeral insurance? And I know this is a topic that not many people like to talk about, but actually I'm going to talk about it. Hey? Because too many times had I seen in the work and income space where our whānau were not ready and they did not have the money. How many of you know whānau out there have said, you can't come and get the body until you pay up front? Hey? And so we forget about the little things, and they're not little actually, because that bill can reach as high as 10K, and that's our people's income for the year. Right? So one of the things in terms of integrated care, I was just thinking about what you said, was that I had the privilege of knowing and understanding what that looked like in that space for people, because they didn't have the money. And I do want to share one, if I may, sorry. But there was a queer I had to go and look after, and they said to me, oh, be careful when you go to that whare, because you might fall into, there's holes going up the stairs. And I was like, oh yeah, it's all right, because I'd go in at 10 o'clock at night, stay there all night with them, and then leave in the morning if they didn't pass. So I went up, I was like, oh, freak, I just about fell through this hole. And I knocked at the door, because I couldn't really see. This was in an affluent community in the Wellington region known as Kandala. So I couldn't really see. If you know Wellington, you'll know it's very wealthy. Knocked at the door. Knocked at the door, and a young wahine Māori opened the door, and the first thing I saw was rats. And then the next thing that came to my nose was the smell, and it wasn't a very nice smell. And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm here to look after. Is that your mum?" "Yep." "Where is she?" So I understand she's not. So they directed me to the room, and I always take with me biscuits, my own cup, so that I'm not relying on the whānau, right? Because I never know what I'm walking into until I get there. And I looked at her and she looked like she's in a lot of pain. And I just said, "Oh, darling, we need to get you fixed up, eh? When was the last time you had a kai?" She was in her late 60s. And she was like, I said, "Okay. Do you like chocolate?" Because I take Mallow Puffs, and there's a reason why I take Mallow Puffs. They're easy to eat. Especially for our people with no teeth, no. Right. She said, "Those are my favourite." I said, "Well, here, darling, you have them." And I said, "I'll just go and had to go and get her medication." Now, what I want to share with you is that the daughter said, "Oh, if you want a cup of tea, here's the empty Fanta bottle. You got to go outside and fill it with water." Now, this is only about 5 years ago, whānau. They didn't have running water in the whare, in this affluent community. They had to use that same water to put in the toilet to flush, right? So then I had to have the conversation with them. "Do you know why I'm here?" "Oh, Mum's better." I said, "No, darling, she's not. Are you guys ready for what's about to happen?" They weren't, right? Shock. "We haven't got any money. Where are we going to get it from?" So I could see, in terms of my role in work and income, how important it was for me to support this whānau financially, because I knew that she was going to go soon. There's the funeral grant that they could access as a beneficiary. But also, how else might we help in terms of the integrated care? And she was one of the reasons. I have a son-in-law from Rangitukia, if you're from Ngāti Porou, kia ora, who is an electrician by trade, but also a builder, young man. And I rang him and I said, "Pete, you're going to build a coffin." He's like, "Oh, And I said, you're going to build it." I didn't know. "It's all right. It's your job to find out how to do it. It's just my job to tell you what to do." Because I knew that this whānau needed help and they just didn't have the money. So long story short, we now build coffins for whānau who cannot afford that. And we're now utilising the whānau skill, right? Whānau skill, who's a builder? Can you build? So that coffin costs us $200. The funeral grant from work and income is $2,000 or just a little over. So now the whānau have money as well to support any whānau coming. And we still do that to today. And so we utilise the skill, right? Get all the girls together. We have a kōrero with the whānau, say this, this and this. And I say, "This is your heart, go do it. This is your uncle, this is your auntie, go do it. You put your heart and soul." And they come up with the most fantastic things. We got artists, they paint it, they draw on it, right? So that's the integrated care that I wanted to share. Kia ora.
Kia ora, tēnā koe. One word that comes to mind in that kōrero is manaakitanga. And I struggled with this word integrated care for actuals, because I was like, what even is that? Because it's manaakitanga, and that's what we do as kaimahi Māori every single day of our lives, right? We're Māori when we wake up, we're Māori when we go to sleep. And this integrated care is what we do as whānau, or as kaimahi Māori in this space. I think about every single thing that you've said today. You're just being yourselves. And how amazing would that be if we had more kaimahi Māori in these spaces, in your organisations, to cater to the needs of our people, to get them a water out of the tap, out of the house. Yeah, to make their coffins and so on. We've got one question. And we've got 2 more minutes to go. So we'll leave that one question to you at the fire.
Kia ora mai tātou. I just want to say that this is all like tino rawe. We never want to go through a funeral process like we did with COVID ever again, because that was tauiwi telling us, being advised Two. I've got one. I know it's lunchtime. I'm going to get to this. So when you go and get them during COVID, when you go pick up the darling, that's it. It was done. We all knew that. When that whānau rang me, I said to them, "So you're going to ring me in 3 days, aren't you?" And they said, we're nurses. I said, "Choice," because they could look after her. And we went there in 3 days. We probably would have got in trouble if the police found out, but we made it happen because we're Māori, because we can. Kia ora.
Beautiful. Kia ora. Oh, that's a beautiful place to end. What a great soundbite to end on. And tino rere ana te wā. Nō reira, me mihi anō ki a koutou, o koutou whakaro, koutou ngā tumu whakarai, koutou e whakatū ana i enei kaupapa, pūpiri tonu ana i te aho o enei kaupapa, ngā mihi ki a koutou. I think the main things that came from this portion of our kōrero today was the idea that the pou of all of these whare is manaakitanga, aroha, me tērā tirohanga Māori, tūturu nei, ki te rongoā, what is rongoā, and identifying that we all, the word power, loved it. We got the power. So let's end the way we started. Let's get our little Māori going. Put all of your power into the Māori and send that power out across the room. Ready, go! Woo! Nō reira, ngā mihi mutunga kore ki a koutou katoa. Kia ora rā.
Wonderful. We're going to go have lunch very shortly, so we'll be back out where you had morning tea. Just a couple of pānui. So in 10 minutes' time, for those that are interested, Professor Michael Jamieson, do you want to put your hand up, Michael? So everyone knows who he is. There's going to be a workshop for those that are interested in the National Cancer Research Network. So if you want to come over to this bit, grab your lunch, in about 10 minutes that will start. The other thing is that there's a table of goodies, and a big mihi to all of you that brought either plants or food or different things to share. So for everyone, please help yourself to that before you go. The other thing is there's a few leadership grads here that have been a part of the different programs. Can I just catch up with you for 2 minutes over there by Jemima? We have a, she was over there by this, sorry, over there. Well, can we just catch up for 2 minutes before we go for lunch? The other thing is that we're back here. We've got an exciting afternoon, and we're fortunate that we have Libby and Hinimoa who will do a workshop with us straight after lunch, and so that will start at 12:55. So if anyone has to go early, just remember if you can hand your lanyards in. Hopefully you won't go early. And also that there's a QR code, QRS, whatever, one of those codes, those square ones. If you, yeah, one of those things, for the survey. Hang on, but I think there might be another pānui.
Michelle wants a photo of all the speakers on the stage. If they could quickly.
Okay. And for all this, there's another pānui for all the speakers. If you can come up on the stage while everyone else is having lunch, because they want to take a photo of you. Ka pai? So with that, whoever's the first one out there, can you do karakia for Kai? And we'll see you all back in here at 12:55. Kia ora.
We're really not sure. We've really not sure what the numbers are going to be. We'll have to see when we get there. We've had a lot of interest from Ngāpuhi whānau that are based down here from the Kapiti coast down. So there are probably about between a dozen and 20 of us that had come down from the north to later today. We'll be delivering missions to the repeal Senate committee, 7AA. So that's why we're here to deliver that in person to the Senate committee, but the numbers that turn up to support and listen to the corridor today, we'll just see how many people are there during their lunch hour.
If you could summarise, what do you think that the corridor is aiming to say?
Oh, really aiming to say to our own people that Ngāpuhi iwi are here, and we already know that. And that we don't feature well in the statistics, particularly our mokopuna. We have 827 Ngāpuhi mokopuna currently in state care. We have 14,000 pipeline to enter into state care, and we as iwi and Hapulu and whānau want to do something about that.
As you will appreciate, any study that involves gathering sleep data by electronic means and wellbeing data that approximates health data from participants within a workplace.
The buildings behind us that can hear us, but really our message today is out to our own people, order and get conversations going in families about how we raise healthy families and healthy mokopuna.
You're obviously meeting or getting involved with the government at the select committee process this afternoon. Do you hope that this year anything will get reactions from the government at the mark?
Always hopeful, always hopeful. I think that's the magic thing about us, we're always hopeful, we're always turning up and hope. But we're also not holding our breath too much. You know, the conversations must keep going. We must cut each other off as best we can from those conversations, because only by keeping those channels and conversations open will we get somewhere. So we always hope that we get some response and support in what we're trying to do here.
And obviously this is a planned and peaceful way of gathering and showing how the community can gather. But I'm curious how the community is feeling and whether there are undertones of anger at the moment.
There's hurt, you know, this is a really deep and traumatic. Underlying all of this is a lot of pain and trauma. So there's no doubt that there is anger sitting out there somewhere. So, and this is part of what Ngāpuhi, particularly care, social needs practitioners are standing up now and saying, we know how to manage this. We know our people, we know the trauma, and we have the right tones and mostly the reasons to care for our people. So while there is that there, and we know we have to be very careful and sensitive, we are the best ones to be careful and sensitive in that space. This isn't aimed at being angry, you know, but also we are deeply frustrated, but this isn't aimed at being angry. It's about shedding light on issues that we need to find and go back to our tūpuna solutions for. Our culture has solutions for these, and the thing that is bothering us today is it's exactly the thing that's being targeted and taken away from us, our culture.
That is Hemirangi Himona from Napoli speaking about the rally where I think about 300 are gathering outside Parliament at the moment. 16 minutes past 12 on Tipuron and a group of midwives taking the Ministry of Health to court said it's their last option to keep midwifery services free. The class action court case represents 1,500 self-employed midwives and accuses the government of breach of contract and gender discrimination. College of Midwives says self-employed midwives are struggling to cover costs to keep their services available. Our reporter Lauren Crump is at the High Court in Wellington, joins me now. Let's just look at the history of this case, Lauren. Kia ora, Charlotte. Yeah, this case stretches back quite some time, nearly a decade. Back in 2015, the New Zealand College of Midwives took a High Court claim alleging gender-based discrimination under the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. The government responded though and offered mediation, which the midwives accepted in return for dropping their court papers. However, so following that, they agreed to co-design what they call a funding model, a new funding model, which includes better pay that reflects historic undervaluation and increased pressures with things like more complex pregnancies. However, the College of Midwives say that was never honoured. They say the government breached that settlement agreement, which has led to another settlement agreement. They say that also wasn't honoured. The government did not hold up its end of the bargain and deliver on better pay, among those other things. And so now, as a result of the breach, they say, of that settlement agreement, we're at the High Court here today. So what are they asking for? So the main thing is fair and reasonable pay, and I understand there is a bit of a dispute, I guess, between the College of Midwives and the government over what fair and reasonable pay actually is. But they also want a change in contracts. Unable to negotiate pay, but unable to take strike because of the nature of work, the given nature of and the baby life are at risk if they were ability to navigate. And they also want a national consistent investment. This is a quote from them to manage the workforce and ensure that there are I guess enough midwives around to deliver for what New Zealand needs. Okay, so what's being said in court today? Well, this morning so far we have heard from the College of Midwives lead counsel, Robert Kirkness. So he's been sort of laying out that history of the case, referring to the various settlement agreements and documents that have been agreed and that kind of thing. He says simply the Crown needs to be held to account. He says people should be kept to their contractual promises, and that includes not a gift, it's recognition for has failed to deliver on that. It's important to note that we are yet to hear from the Crown, so we have not yet heard their side of the but do so in detail with proceedings set down here at the High Court of Wellington for the next 6 weeks. We'll hear lots. Thank you very much. That is our reporter, Lauren Crump, who's at the High Court in Wellington. Now it's 19 minutes past 12. I'll skip over on what you'd like to do, and our business reporter, Jemima Hewson, is with me now. Kia ora. Westpac has a new so the official cash rate this year is the outline. The bank is now picking 2 cuts of 25 basis points in each of the Reserve Bank October and meeting. The same forecast as AFB. It says the economic growth and inflation outlook is now much lower than previously expected. It comes amid growing concerns of a global recession, sending financial markets tumbling, and growing expectations the US Federal Reserve will cut rates next month. Westpac Chief Economist Kelly Eckold says the Reserve Bank will be monitoring bond conditions
You haven't had any water recently? Water.
at a hospital, you really don't want to come and see me if you don't have to. My lovely colleague here, Myra, is trained as a hematologist there. So she does the liquid cancers, I do the solid ones. And I'm also the Dean of Te Kururata or Waikato, or the Waikato Clinical Campus with the University of Auckland. We have about 160 medical students who we nurture and support there each year. And my third hat is I'm a co-director of a group called Cancer Trials New Zealand, which was set up about 21 years ago to enable people to start asking their own questions and develop clinical trials and clinical research and conduct it right around the country. So one of the problems we have in this country is that for a long time, research was not part of business of the DHBs. We had the Director General of Health standing up at a meeting explicitly saying, we don't do research in the health service, we provide care. Research will not happen here if it's at any cost to the health service. The thing that has transformed things is the creation of Te Whatu Ora. Suddenly there's an opportunity here, but then how do we actually take advantage of it? How do we enable people to ask questions and everyone around the country to participate? I've been looking after patients in the Tairapani area for 10 years, which is at least my mother, I'm sure. But I can tell you, I've only had 2 of my patients from that whole region who got into clinical trials in the last 10 years. Why? Because it's a 5.5-hour drive to Hamilton, which is where we've got our clinical trials in, and that's where most of the access is. Even the best study. Who's asking the questions that go into these studies and trials? Who has a voice at the table? I'm a big passionate researcher. I come from my perspective. I was reading on the difference between research and writing earlier and just hadn't realised most of my comments about what are the questions that matter. Who prioritises? Who's actually asking? Actually has the reins on where the fund. Research Council is the only one in town to be studying these sites and protecting. So we've had this ongoing horror with ministry with Te Whatu Ora saying, well, how can we engage and develop some sort of integration so that there's an opportunity for everyone to access to research, but also to be the voice at the table that says research is important, asking the questions. What are the priorities? How can we do this? My patients from Tairava have a complete opportunity to and to get feedback into designing this space. So we've had 3 meetings now, and this one is the 4th at which we are asking the question. This new system that we're calling it a cancer research or cancer trials network. Nina, I think quite rightly points out that there's a much broader question here. It's just about clinical trials and clinical studies. It's about cancer research totally. My perspective is from focus from people, patients, sort of people facing systems as opposed to laboratory research or things. But there's an interface that there is that corridor that was happening around prevention, around screening. So this is not about me telling anyone what the system looks like. This is about us asking, please give us your thoughts, because it's important. On each table, there's a sheet of paper which is titled Opportunities for Creating a Cancer Trials Network within the National Cancer Research. There's two questions on it. There's also a QR code. So if you can't get to this paper or fill your own thoughts in on that, you can go to the QR code. We've got the same opportunity online questionnaire. We'll be taking all of the information, all the feedback on the and integrate and then publish it and present it places within the Rātapa and 7 level. So we've already got about 100 responses so far. One of the things we don't have is actually what perspective people have bring in comments about. And so we've asked people to make comments. So you know, consider a variety of perspectives, and you'll see that they're including are you a Māori researcher, Māori communities, consumers, clinical research, clinicians, scientists, or industry. And so actually I've listed a whole lot of things there, so hopefully people can list which of many perspectives they bring. So
I think if you so before you look at the questionnaire, and thank you, Nina. I didn't realise. But anyway, sorry. It's got volatile. But I need to paint the context of the trials so that it is meaningful, so that you understand the implications of something in group like this. So the Whakaora is setting up a national network to bring together cancer researchers, and often it is clinical cancer research, together to create more streamline to how we're doing clinical trials in Aotearoa. So if you're in the cancer care pathway and within our context, our government doesn't spend or doesn't have the budget to spend as much as it could on some cutting edge medications. Some of the treatments mean less side effects. It means you can stay at home and take tablets, and overseas, particularly even over in Australia, they have access to this as a funded medication. So the way we can access those types of medications is through clinical trials. So as a clinician, if you're sitting in clinic and you know that there's something out there that is way better than what's on offer in the funded realm, then you can potentially tap into that clinical trial and get your patient through in a funded way, that they are able to go through that journey on the clinical trial. Often the clinical trial has lots of wraparound as well, lots of monitoring. But I think there's so many issues that exist within clinical trials for our whānau at the moment that we're trying to break down. That's one of the reasons why I'm sitting at the table. I'd like to make sure that we influence what happens at the national level in the right way. But I can only bring to the table what I know, that wanting to get whānau to share with us what they want, what they see as a priority within cancer research and cancer clinical trials nationally, and certainly Longwa has been brought to the table before as well. But there's trust that exists amongst us, and if you're in clinic and you're with your whānau and someone mentions the clinical trial, often the distrust exists from historical experiences within the health system, and yet it's really hard to hand over your signature in an informed consent process to be a part of this clinical trial if that trust doesn't already exist. And so part of the things we have to break down is what that informed consent process looks like. But to ensure that on that clinical trial, you and your whānau are going to be safe, culturally safe, with your best interests at heart. So there's things like that. There's also inclusion criteria. So a lot of our whānau actually don't even get referred because of comorbidities. So they may have renal function issues, they may have heart issues that would normally take them out of the running to be included on some clinical trials. So that's another area that we can work on, like how do we expand that inclusion criteria to ensure that our whānau get a foot in the door to stay for now. And then thirdly to that is the funding. Often these clinical trials are funded either through the government, through collaboration with other countries, or through industry. So that's drug companies. And when the rubber hits the road and it's your mum, your dad, your baby that needs that medicine, you know, you really want to know that you've got all the options that are on the table. That if you have any ethical issues with engaging with pharma or with a big drug company, you can make that decision, but have the option that they given to you. So this is the sort of corridor that we'll be talking through within the network as it gets developed. With my co-chair here, who said no.
So is she.
So that's the context, whānau, that this all sits in, and there's lots of other issues, but it's really about, in terms of cancer research, what are our priorities? What are your priorities? What do you want to see as part of a research that's funded through the clinical network involved in law for cancer? May not have the answers now once you've got a QR code in there, but if you've got any thoughts, we can either wānanga them out loud and then talk through it a bit more, or you can respond through the QR code. But like anything, it's just the train that's moving fast. So what we're trying to do is at least slow it down so that at the outset you have the right car coming through and setting a thing.
If you went through a couple of slides. So, John. Next one. Why don't we do this? Are you happy with the outcomes that you've now? If not, like actually, the research and see if we can do it better. If you're being treated in a hospital that does clinical trials, everyone has been around. The quality of care that people access, the standards you have to use when you're treating every single person goes up. And so, yeah, you can go into a trial, that's great, but if you're not going to a trial, you're going to be really careful what you're in the hospital. So if the only place around the country that are doing these trials happen to be, the biggest hospitals, there's everyone else around the country that actually get good care. Where are my patients going to get good care? If Gisborne Hospital or Brainerd or anything else, and why should people who live in those get less? Some of the most important research is about doing what we know can be done best and doing it everywhere. And so in the process of doing that clinical trial, you actually get everyone having availability for that right around the time. So we are all better off by that happens. And we can then also ask the question. The lady at the back there was saying to me that one of the whānau has melanoma is coming up onto the path. One of the very expensive drugs for IMAC just about to fund for lots of different types of things. Was funded for melanoma about 8 years ago. Almost everyone with metastatic melanoma to die. About 4%. It's all one drug. But other drugs like that are coming through for lung cancer, cervical cancer, bladder cancer. I'm also doing Hodgkin's disease and all sorts of things are coming through. But the only reason they're coming through is because there was an opportunity to go into the company that helped me to be improved. So there are direct opportunities to get access to drug development with the standard of funded by that. No elsewhere. Standing. You're not trying to find things to they have a report about this because there's some really important work for the Congo station. Soundbar, big into soundbar. Soundbar. So there are the questions. Piece of paper there. Oh. There is a QR code there that links through the same questionnaire, so if you want to, it's on the end of the paper as well. So there's an opportunity there that you can contribute. Your thoughts are really valuable. But we've got 5 minutes, so Myra's going to do
Michael, but I did want to say that the other benefit of clinical trials of having health enlisted in clinical trials, if there is a big benefit to be on that trial, is that medication and therapy and how it's rolled out and how it's worked is based on the population findings from that clinical trial. So often our representation is always very low on clinical trials, and we don't actually even know how we respond to some of these medications because we're not represented that well in the trials. You know, in multiple myeloma, often first-line therapy that was brilliant for most of the population. For some reason, our whānau don't do as well on that first-line therapy, and we don't know why, because we weren't actually a part of the trial. So another thing is there has been a clinical trial, the equity-led clinical trial that's taking place down in Wellington that I've been involved with the Mulligan Institute. So in haematology, there is like the new whiz bang golden sort of glow treatment in CAR T cell therapy. So has anyone heard of CAR T cell therapy? Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. So it's basically taking your cells, your immune system cells, your T cells from your body, taking it out there and injecting a virus that will grow, injecting a virus into your own cells, and that virus basically teaches the cells to identify your specific cancer cells. So it only works in some cancers, but it's basically your own immune system. So you've got your own immune system cells taken out there, injected with a virus that will read, be able to locate your cancer cells once it's reinfused back into your body, and use your body's natural sort of immune system to go around, not a similar lots of years of research going into this, but it goes around and it finds those cancer cells, and then like your immune system usually munches up sort of bacterial cells or cells that are dying. It will do that to the cancer cell. So CAR T cell therapy is really expensive, not publicly funded here in Aotearoa at the moment. Even overseas in Australia, you can access CAR T cell therapy for a lot cheaper, but if you're going to self-fund, you have to go overseas, and it can be up to $1 million self-fund. But we all know who's getting that treatment. You can get government funding for any community that needs to go to Australia with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. They can access CAR T cell therapy. But there's a group setting up a CAR T cell therapy in Wellington. And from the outset, they have got a Māori governance group overseeing the whole research. They've ensured that they looked at where research has been taken place in Wellington. They had to get a wraparound service to ensure Māori could participate through the haematology clinics that actually make their way down to Wellington and be supported once they're down there. They've also made sure that they specifically targeted Māori patients. So in clinic, they wanted the referrals to be coming through fast and strong from Māori patients that were diagnosed with B-cell lymphoma that was not responding to lots of other medications. So our representation on the trial has been really good. As well as that, we talked about some of the tikanga around infusion, and we have lots of wānanga about thoughts about taking your own cells out of your body, and then how totally you feel about it being injected with a virus and then reintroduced back into your body. So there's certain tikanga wānanga that go on well before design on the. So these are the sort of things that you can put in place to make sure that a clinical trial is going to benefit our people. And that the outcomes that we get from that trial, we can transfer into our population and say what worked well, what didn't. So that's just a tiny little example of what can be achieved with clinical trials. Is that
Just in the last 30 seconds, just want to say this is all about drugs. This can be anything from people's experience. Can you change the way in which it's done? Say, can you get better outcomes for people engaged if you don't have a how can we remove those barriers? There are, we do trials for Bell drugs. We've got other things. You're about to have a sound bar, my wife those who have seen the roles. And we're doing a randomized trial with students at Waikato University, looking to see if it can help reduce increase in anxiety and improve sleep. And once we've sorted out how to, once we sort out how to do that best, we have engaged with lots of schools from Huntly through to Fraser and others about doing a similar study and just finding if we can find ways for our orangutan could manage the stress and mental health problems they have, using something like and people just sit on Spotify and listen to the practice. Really just those are clinical trials. There's so much we can do. You want to evaluate and see which aspects of various things they actually really help the body. Those are clinical trials. And thinking it's the tool, it's the mechanism that helps you understand and get more information about what you're doing. And
it feels a little bit like we're at the Olympics and we're all being given gold medals with these different nuggets of girls and boys that have been shared. So Myra and Michael have said the information pieces are in front of you and strongly encourage you to participate and give your feedback. Okay, so in about 30 seconds, we're going to take our Longmore workshop and we're privileged to other people in one and Lily. I want to do that. But before we do that, I want everyone to hear too. It's not going to be 100 review fees or okay. So we're going to do 3 movements. The first movement is so you're just going to go tahi, rua, toru, kore, pa, lima, mono, to waru. The second movement is you're going to go down and you're going to go cross your arms like this. And the next time you cross your arms the other way. We do that 8 times. Tahi, rua, toru, pa, lima, mono, to waru. And the third movement is we're going to go down, we're going to touch our nose and touch out ear. Okay. Tahi, rua. Now, if you get a bit stuck, go your nose first and then your ear. Now, going the same side doesn't count, like this, or just touching your ears doesn't count either. Okay. So we're going to go through that twice. The first time we'll go a little bit slower, second time we'll go a bit faster. But I want you to call it off while we're doing it. Okay, let's go. Tahi, rua, toru, pa, lima, tono, waru. Change, tahi. Change arms. Toru, pa, lima, tono, waru. And now nose. Tahi, rua, toru, pa, lima, tono, waru. Again, tahi. Let's go. Rua, tono, pa, lima, tono, waru. Change, tahi, rua, toru, pa, lima, tono, waru. Okay, tahi, rua, toru, pa, lima, tono, waru. Oh my, how much back?
Ka pai, tēnā tātou. Can I get a kia ora? Can I get a kia ora? Can I get a ha 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 ha? Ha 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 ha. One rongoa for, actually 2 rongoa for you today to take home with you. The ability to kōrero, 1 kia ora, and the ability to laugh. Ha 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 ha. Tēnā tātou. While Ara is laying our taonga pūro. Earlier we had some kukau and some other taonga pūro to lay for us to have in the background. And I talked very briefly about the kukau and its ability to bring you back into the present, kia noa, kia taua noa i te wairua te ngākau te hinengaro, right? But I forgot to elaborate on why we needed to do that. And so we don't know where you've come from. We don't know what your morning was like, and we don't know what taumaha that you're bearing in this time. And so bringing in this element, kia rongo ai o taringa, so your ears can hear it, helps us to bring us back to the present. So we can leave all of the taumaha or the pēhitanga or the mamai and the pauri to bring ourselves back to this moment in time at 1:01 p.m. tuning in to this kōrero today. So all we need from you, bare minimum, is your presence. Tēnā tātou.
Using how the really themselves to a functional but basically what I start to do. Connecting all of us in a way, ready to be helped. Getting knowledge of our emotions.
Tēnā tātou. Ko te oro ihi mātou. Everybody say te oro ihi. Te oro ihi. We are a collective, a collection of taonga pūoro practitioners who want to normalise taonga pūoro in the whare. The way we use taonga pūoro that we see on the TVs is probably just at the start of a performance and at the end of a performance, right? And so we want to share some of our tricks, our secret sources to help not just our hapori and not just our whānau Māori, which is who we serve today, but to help you. Right? We think about, in order for me to be well, I need to do all of these things, hinengaro, wairua, all of the R's. And so if I can get me well, I will be well to serve my people. Right? We are here, we're always here to be a backbone to our whānau, whether it is helping in our corrections, whether it's helping with our whiri and so on. And we're going to hear more later on around how we can incorporate integrated care or manaakitanga in our spaces. And so this is just a short snippet of how you can, quickest that you can get to noa or tau using taonga pūoro, which is one rongoa in amongst all of our rongoa that we have today. So ko waia hau, I really dislike that sentence there, but I'm going to go back to these because it's beautiful pictures. Nah. Ko Elizabeth Gray tōku ingoa, he uria hau, o era iwi, Ngāti Rehia, hands up, who's from the far north? Kia ora cousins, aunties, uncles, nieces, nephews, and iramutu. Ngāti ue pōhatu, anyone from the East Coast? Hands up. Hei te aha, hei, tēnā tātou. Pāua pies. Tamau poko ki te awa tipua, anyone from the Wanganui River? Yeah, I'm from in the middle. And then we've got Ngāti Tū Whare Toa no hoki, anyone from the middle? From the middle, ka pai, tēnā tātou. I come from lots of places, as I mentioned here, but what I'm here for you today is let us be your pautuara. Let us help you to manaaki you, to create a space, a safe space in Ahuru Mowai for you all, so that when you leave today, your kete is full with all of the yummies to share with all of your whānau and the hapori that you serve. Ka pai. I'm going to get Arapira to introduce herself, and then we'll move on to Hinemoa.
For me, as a musician, we kind of started when it took to with the songwriter, I've been back a whole lot of the world for well-being. Yeah.
Kia ora. Hinemoa.
Tēnā no tātou. Ai, Hinemoa tēnei. Māngai nui no te aroa waka, he tīwhiri tērā. I've already introduced myself, so I'll talk a little bit about how I come to be here today. As a second language learner, as a newcomer to Te Ao Māori in my 20s, I was not brought up with te reo me ngā tikanga, me ngā ahotanga o Te Ao Māori. I've worked really deliberately to make sure that what I kai, the kai that I consume, is going to nurture my babies, basically. And so I come here today from the perspective of an artist, not a clinician, and don't generally work in spaces that most of you are working in. But I think I have a really privileged perspective as an artist, because I truly believe that our toi and our ability to hold spaces in a really creative way are the things that are going to help us shift in the most authentic, incredible version of who we are in our mana motuhakitanga. So that's why I'm here today, because I believe that taonga puoro, karetao Māori, traditional Māori puppets, whakairo, rāranga, all of our arts, I believe that the blueprints for how to be the best version of ourselves with our mokopuna into the future are in our mātou rangatoe. You know, a little bit biased, but yeah, that's me. Ko au tērā. Yeah, that's kainui tērā mō tēnei wā.
I'm going to get you to sit.
If there's anything I've learned from this morning, it's that time seems to like disappear into this vortex. It must be up in the ceiling somewhere. So we're going to move straight on to talk about ngā whānau puoro. So this is just a broad overview of the relationships that are at play in te ao puoro. So I'm not sure how many of you have experienced puoro in action or puoro as healing. But this is to show that it's as we've talked about, it's a collective mahi. It's a relationship firstly between you as your own puoro, you as your own vessel, and that of the instrument that you're playing with. And every time you think about an instrument, you're actually having a relationship with that atua and their characteristics. So we'll start with Papa Tuanuku. We'll start with Papa. We've got Papa and Rangi holding us together, and then we'll talk about some of their siblings in the middle. So yeah, Papa Tuanuku, she's the kohatu and the rhythm. Ne? And we have several instruments, ngā kohatu, ngā tumutumu, and they're the rhythm keepers, the memory keepers, knowing that every single action that has ever happened to Papa Tuanuku has been stored in the sinews, stored in the veins, stored in every little bit of rock. There's a memory and there's a kōrero that's already there. So we play with the tumutumu and we use these memory keepers to keep rhythm, to help us remember how to chant, to help us remember that we do chant, to help us remember the kupu. Yeah. Papa Tuanuku, Papa Tuanuku, tēnei au e mihi atu. Papa Tuanuku, Papa Tuanuku, tēnei au te tumutumu. Yeah. Really simple. And the minute you're touching those kohatu, you're in relationship with Papa Tuanuku directly, and nobody or no social construct or no other system can take that relationship and your own development of it away. We'll move on now to, let's go to the wahine. We'll move through to Hine Raukatauri. So Hine Raukatauri, she's the goddess of, some say, taonga puoro, of Māori music. Some say of flute music. There's different, of course, as everything in te ao Māori, there's different, thank you, Dad. There's different perspectives, different kōrero, different pūrākau, and that's because we're all, we're in relationship with our own environments. So someone who lives next to the moana is going to have a different relationship with Hine Raukatauri than somebody who lives in the ngahere. So Hine Raukatauri is based on the case moth, on the chrysalis of the case moth. She has a few different reo, and in the kōrero rokohanga, when our world was being created and Rangi and Papa were being separated, her reo is te reo moki moki, te reo hotu hotu, te reo tangi. So she laments. She's a witness, and she laments everything that's going on, because there were many emotions happening when if you think about separating land and sky, that's a lot of activation. Tāwhiri Mātia, the wind was blowing crazy. Tū Matauenga was stomping. Tāne was doing tāne. Tangaroa was gnawing at tāne, gnawing at the forests and pulling them in. So there were many early battles, and it's our wahine, Hene Raukatauri, who witnesses and delivers that kōrero through te reo moki moki, te reo hotu hotu. Yeah, I think that's Kanui. There's lots of information, so we're just going to get started. If you have any more kōrero or pātai, please come and find us later, and we're really happy to continue the wānanga. Okay, let's go to Tangaroa. They're like, oh, where should we go next? So Tangaroa, te hā o te moana. Tai timu, tai pare, the ebb and the flow of the tide. Tangaroa is an atua we bring up a lot when we're working, especially with rangatahi, because there's many characteristics of Tangaroa that our rangatahi identify tōtika with, that completely immediately with. The huge crashing waves, the anger, the dumping, if you're thinking about what the ocean is, all of us, especially our rangatahi, are having those emotional responses, are having those feelings all the time. So being able to play taonga pūoro that have a tangaroa reo, a tangaroa voice, is a really amazing way to connect with those things, those aspects of tangaroa that are going on inside of us. And of course, we have Hene Moana in there as well. Let's keep things balanced. And one of the reo that comes from, there's different versions. And of course, there's whakapapa, and it goes on and on and on. So without a handle, this is a pūmoana. And then you add a kakau or a handle, and depending on the length of it, it becomes a pū pakapaka, pūtātara as well, which again talks as, you can use these as teaching tools, because you have Tangaroa who's always gnawing at tāne. They're always fighting. And maybe it's your sister's tāne and your Tangaroa, and you're always fighting. And here's Mama and Papa in the middle here. And so together, these two atua and all of their characteristics come together in this real aio, rongoa way of being in the binding. So in the instrument, there it's all about peace. Yeah? And Hene Moke Moke as the shell brings a whole nother reo, a soft, harmonic, reo moke moke, always yearning, looking for connection. So the Hene Moke Moke who lives inside of the shell doesn't start there. Cruises through the beds of the moana, vulnerable, exposed, without a shell, looking for a home. And so when Hene Moke Moke gets to her home, that's when she starts resonating this beautiful reo, talking about her moke moketanga and that whole idea of yearning for connection. Bye-bye. Moving right along to tāne. So tāne mahuta. In this space, we have most of our instruments that you'll see on the daily, things like kōwauwau, ngā karanga o ngā manu. So this is a karanga weka. We have smaller instruments that are karanga manu. Again, if you were to play one of these in the ngahere, you'll be completely surrounded with a whole new iwi of friends in the trees. It's pretty cool. Tāne also does, what's the word, gets us into the nitty gritty of all the ngangara, all of the bugs, all of the things that are moving in all of the other little ecosystems and all of the little layers of the forest. And, you know, if you can imagine, if you're playing taonga pūoro in these spaces, the rongoa, apart from the connection directly to your atua and to our environment, is that you kind of need to take yourself or settle yourself in a certain way to be able to be in relationship like that. Generally, outside of spaces like this, when we're using taonga pūoro, we're not plugged in, there's no amplification, we don't drag our big speakers into the middle of the ngahere or to the moana or anything like that. So you really, the fact that you have a taonga pūoro and you're in relationship with it means that that's assisting you to be another version of yourself, right? Because you need to be somewhat settled to get real out of these things, for sure. Tawhiri. Ko tawhiri mate a puake pā hoki te rangi I runga pariraua pūrere hua karawhiua. Pūrere atu, pūrere mai au e rango rango, wiri wiri, wana wana, kororo hu. Porotiti, te ha, te hi, hauora e. So Tawhiri Mātia, I think most of us know our atu of the winds and all of the aspects and all of the types of winds. So Tawhiri Mātia in the creation stories absolutely was not going to shift, didn't want the separation, completely opposed to it, and went to be with Ranginui, with his papa, with Tawhiri's papa. So we've got these instruments like the kuko. We've heard a little bit about the kuko. Libby's playing a pūrere hua. And these instruments are imitating the aspects of Tawhiri. So we can use these with our whānau to really plug into that Tawhiritanga that's spiraling and happening in them, the Tawhiritanga that's spiraling and happening in us. And there's other relationships that Tawhiri has. We might as well go straight to Hine Pūtehui. I feel like I'm talking a lot. So there's this relationship that Tawhiri Mātia has with Hine Pūtehui. So Tawhiri's out there raging, absolutely over it, not being listened to by the whānau, and Tawhiri's a tuakana. The audacity of these younger siblings not to be hearing what Tawhiri's got to say. Raging away. And then comes Hine Pūtehui. And Hine Pūtehui is the goddess of the gourds, of our hui. And in the creation story, she's that amazing, amazing māreikure energy that really feels, she's feeling the scarification, the mamai that's happening with Papa Tuanuku. She's feeling the separation. She's feeling the disconnection that's starting to be carved into the whenua by Tawhiri and Tāne, Tu and Tawhiri. So Hine Pūtehui is the one who's feeling. And as the gourd, she's got this big, beautiful belly, and she's the swallower of storms, right? So all of this anger, all of these feelings of disconnection, she's the one who takes them, processes them, and turns them into aroha, basically. And she shares that with Papa Tuanuku. So yeah, these are some of her manifestations as instruments. There's many, 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 many. We're going to go into her a little bit more soon. I think that's us. We're just going to end with Ranginui. And in this philosophy, I guess, or this school of thought of Taonga Pūoro, Ranginui is the place. So rangi, right? Rangi is another word for mind. So it's in Ranginui that the idea of composition comes together. So we have all of these beautiful whānau, all of their āhuatanga and characteristics. So Ranginui is the place where they come together in composition. Yeah. And so that's pretty much a brief, really brief overview of the Taonga Pūoro that we practice with, that we use in performance, but really that we use to hold spaces. Sometimes they're big spaces with many, many people. Sometimes they're intimate spaces with our whānau and with ourselves. Bye.
Everyone say pūkaya. Pūkaya. You would have heard that this morning, this one here being played some years ago when we had the World Cup, Rugby World Cup. We had all of these pūkaya that played at the start of a game. Did anyone see that? Yep, you see it at the start of a kapahaka. Yep, matatini. You often hear brrr, like flash. And so pūkaya, we've got 3 instruments that we're going to delve into in the hope that if you did want to use some of these taonga pūoro, then these are probably the 3 that we would love for you to research. Rangahau, the whakapapa, and the mahi that these instruments help with our whānau. So pūkaya comes from Tūmata Kokiri, who was Tūmā Tauinga back in the rā, changed his name to Tūmata Kokiri when we found this. Again, we have Tāne Mahuta, who is a part of the pūkaya as well. The instrument alerts and warns. So say, for example, what's that fella's name? James Cook comes over and he blows his bugle, doodle doodle doo, and we go, whoa, that's a new deal. Did you say you wanted a fight? No. To which we would respond with, come on then. No. And the rest is history. But we have, we could use this for our government. No, just we won't go into that today. So we are alerting, we are warning. I work in the space of maternity and haputanga wānanga. And we use this for our maraikura or our ira hapu, our birth givers, when it is time when baby is born out of the whare kohanga, and we let the hapori, we let our whānau know that baby's here. And we also use this instrument to alert Papa Tuanuku and let them know that another one of their uri or their descendants has arrived into this world. Did anyone hear the 3 different reo of this instrument? So when we want to have a fight, different reo to when we're talking to our atua. Different reo to when we're talking to our whānau about how to move the toto in the circulation for someone who might have, I don't know, fluid retention, say, for example. I'm going to get someone to come up here and we're going to use these instruments on these people. Misty, because you're over there. Can you bring your chair up and sit over here? Everyone, round of applause for Misty. Missy Boo. Yeah, just in front there. And so we use this instrument to whakawātea, perhaps if we were entering onto foreign ground, pēnei te marae. We would also use this instrument to whakarite spaces, to bring the energy back into this realm here. And what Ara is doing at the moment is playing on the particular parts of the tinana, especially if we're working one-on-one with our whānau to clear all the bad juju, rangi, and your drug dealing whakaro. But also, these are instruments of communication in iwi. And so we would use these instruments to communicate with different parts of our tinana, different parts of our taiao, different parts of our ao, communicating between the two, telling that bad juju in that left leg that you sprained at netball 2 years ago to get in a language that we all understand, ka pai. And then we have different reo. And so the reo that we shared at the start, I'm going to put Ara on the spot, the blat. Can you blat? Ooh, ka pai. Round of applause. And then our reo rongoa, which is using the vibration of the oro to penetrate into that different part, whether it's intergenerationally or just in the tinana to relieve a headache. I know reo isn't really good for headaches, but this works, I tell you. And that's enough for me for Pūkaya for now. I'm going to hand it over to Ara, who will talk a little bit more about kuko up here, if that's okay. Round of applause for Misty.
I've already done this one, but everyone say kuko. I'll say porotiti. They're the same instrument, but they have different kaupapa. So this kuko is what we use to help bring us back to calm, bring us back to toe, especially if we're feeling a little bit anxious. As an anxious person myself, I use it quite a bit, especially during the day. The thing I love about it is the fact that it's very subtle, so you can just kind of bust it out wherever you are and no one has to know, just yourself. The whakapapa for the kuko, so kuko and porotiti have two different whakapapa. Kuko is the child of Tāwhiri Mātea and Whaitiri, and porotiti is the tamaiti of Tāne Mahuta and Hinero. And the reason why they have different whakapapa and a different name is their purposes. So kuko is our hauora, and porotiti is the taonga taputapu for our tamariki. So if you're feeling a little bit anxious, it kind of becomes a bit of a porotiti because you're getting a little bit hard out. Our tamariki, love having the tutu with these. My son was very proud of himself. He would just walk around town just look at me, mum, with the porotiti. And with the kuko, it just brings us back to now. So we're not focusing so much on what was or what's going to be. We just come back to our now. This toes our hinengaro. The very first time I ever had a tutu with one of these was at a hapu wānanga, and the whakaro was that you would use this on your puku for your pepe to help you feel a little bit more toe, your hinengaro because you're stressing out. Our tāne are meant to do it to us as well during that birthing time. And I use it, especially if I've got a bit of a headache, put it on the hinengaro, the hinengaro. If the neck's a little bit sore, play it behind me. Wherever you might have a bit of mamai, you just play it there, brings you back to toe, brings you back to now. And then you're ready to continue on with whatever it is that you need to do.
Can we have issue because the education and people the having
with our intuition, our eye and our logic. Yeah, what you think is right for you in the time and your money, but what the system is it might not be. And so we like to bring everything into the living, go into quiet mode, and I'm more. And then again, we can use this on our babies. That's why because my passion is the start of life and the end of life. And we get fully well, but we believe in kitchen, we able cooking, problem, or trouble, fishing with our baby. We would say that concept of one way we are really on the plane to love. And all round it. A coupon, eating play, you know, take the really on the fourth stuff. The tea, the whole one, there is the coupon.
No degree required.
No degree required. Please. But the attention, the attention will hear me with them. See a home account, the single or really or caring to the
And yeah, it's also really practical. You can put it around your neck, you can put it in your purse, you can put it in your glove box. And even if you can't get it to spin, it's still going to create a different space. And all you need is one moment to create another moment and another moment. So that's the porotiti and the kuko, sorry, kuko. In 2 minutes. Nei au ko hina pu te hue ma kua rongo ko mengo e whakatau ia hono tahi ai, ia rongo ai te ai o. Ia o te pana o manoa I te ororo. So as I talked about before, this is Hine Pū Te Hui. And Hine Pū Te Hui, as I said, is the swallower of storms. She has many versions as an instrument. But I'm just going to talk about the Hue Kōrero. So we talked about Hine Pū Te Hui being able to take all of the data that's in the atmosphere and hold it and turn it into te aio, into rongoa, into aroha. So this is you can have this in your workspace. You don't even need to know how to play her or anything else. With the mouth open, with the head off, she becomes a taha, a vessel. Ne? And we know that our tupuna was sustained by this vessel. Dried food was carried in it on our waka. Karakia was sung into it and then plugged up again on our waka. It was a water vessel. It was prepared, it had birds in it. These days we use it as ipu whenua, ipu waiwhero. We're still using it as a vessel to ritualistically sustain us going forward. So you can have a hue in your office, in your space, The lid can be off all day and you know that all of that kōrero that's happening is going to go in there and she's going to hold it. Yeah? So this is the hui kōrero. I just wanted to quickly share in the time left that we have the puruhau. And Libby, you've got one there, Eva. Yeah, Libby's got the puruhau. Same concept. You're blowing into the puruhau and you're putting what's coming out into this vessel. Again, the puruhau can be used in many situations to plug into te hā. Hā ki roto, hā ki waho. We used it in the birth of our baby to keep me on track and plugged into the purpose. Got a little bit out of control there for a minute or 17 hours. But it was the puruhau being played like just deep resonance, and reminded me to breathe. And my partner just played it and I kind of followed and connected to the breath in the moments that I could. So that's the puruhau. If you have seeds or kōhatu or something inside of the puruhau, it becomes a puruwai, which again, we're talking about looking after our wairua, ngā wai o roto. The beautiful thing about puoro is there's so much whakapapa that you can connect to penetrate a space with somebody that may have been difficult. So yeah, that's Hene Pū Te Hui.
We're going to spend the next 7 minutes serving you. So Te Oro Ihi, or the name of our group, Ohu of Maraikura, talks about the oro, the vibration, the sound, and the ihi rangaranga, the vibration within, or a soundscape. We're going to play you with 4 English words. So at the beginning we did some breath work. Ha ki roto, everyone. Can you inhale for me? And exhale. Inhale. Ha ki waho. Ha ki roto. Ha ki waho. We're going to ha ki roto for 4 counts. Hold pupuri te ha for 4 counts and let it go for 8 counts. Let's just practice that before we get into the swing of things. Can we have that mic up a bit more too? Thank you, Te Māori. Ha ki roto. Pupuri. Ha ki waho. Tahi, rua, toru, wha, ma, ono, whetu. Ha ki roto. Tahi, rua, toru, wha, pupuri. Tahi, rua, toru, wha, ki waho. Tahi, rua, ono, rima, wha, toru, rua, tahi, ka pai. Keep practicing that, ha ki roto. If we can think about the position of our tinana, if you want to lie on the ground, even better. Hey, and then you can apply your oro to our oro. If that's not something that you're wanting to do, have both your feet firmly on the ground. Yep. We like to think we can connect to Papa Tuanuku through these, through this floor and penetrate into the ground, into Papa Tuanuku. If we can have our hands in a comfortable position, whether that's either side of you or whatever you feel, that could get you to that ahuru mōwai or that safe space quick. And using that breath work, I like to have a straight back or the sniff position. Ka pai. Because it gets in as much high as we can, because we are all shallow breathers in our hard to day-to-day lives. Pai. So ha ki roto, ha ki waho, and listen with your ears, not so much with your eyes. You can close your eyes, listening with your ears and with your mauri, your manawa and your wairua for the next 7 minutes.
O te whanuporoe, Ere o no tua whakarere, Ere o mai oha, Ere o iahu mai ngā tua mā. Opupu ake tere, akahoairua, ehere, ore ore ahine ngaro. Mamai, nau mai ki tēnei ao, kia tuku, kia rere, kia pure, tuku mā te hae, ha ki roto, tuku mā te hae, kia rere.
Ha ki roto. Ha ki waho. Ha ki roto. Ha ki waho. Ha ki roto. Upuri. Tuku. Tēnā tātou. Your turn to clap.
As Hinemoa shared earlier, well, we're around for a little bit if you want to have a bit of more of a kōrero, no mai ki te wānanga. And we are 2:00 on the dot. Let this be something that you can take away for you. Hue, we've got seeds over in there, in that brown packet on that. We'll chuck it out over there, just grab a seed. And who's the lovely lady that has the hue? Is she still in here? Oh, can you show the hue? Oh, it's in the car. Oh, it's still out there. Oh, come on. It's like this shape. But it'll be beautiful for your hue kōrero. Tēnā tātou.
I think they deserves a bigger paki than that. Ai tātou te wehi, te ihi, te mana o tērā wānanga. Yeah. Ngā mihi nunui kia koutou ngā wahine a tāhua. Kia ora. Geez, what a wonderful example that was. I actually had to go out about 5 minutes before because I thought, I didn't go to sleep. I'm usually terrible when the lights go down. But that was absolutely wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So Jemima's making her way to the stage. And Jemima's going to be speaking about the science of equity and the art of healing. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Here's a thing for you.
Okay, awesome.
Wait for Jemima.
Thank you.
E kore au, he ngaro, he kakano, I rui a mai, I rangi a te a. A me mihi atu kia koutou katoa. Tēnā koutou ngā wahine. It's such a blessing, such a privilege to follow that and to follow all of the kōrero that's happened today. And I feel really, really privileged to be able to present something that I think that I'm really, really passionate about. So, no tai toke rau ahau. Ko ngā puhi Ngāti Hene ki te tahu tōku pāpā, ko Ngāti Kere me Ngāti Pihere, ngai tahu rangitāne o kuiwi katoa ki te tahu tōku māma. Ko he mai marehana tōku ingoa. For those of you who know me, I've lived locally here, went to Church College here, I've been a nurse here, and I've been a nurse for the last more than 40 years, so it's really nice to be able to come and kōrero about something that I think is a little bit missing in our mahi. But as we have experienced today, all of this beauty is probably exactly fits the bill for the things that we are looking for whānau Māori. I just want a quick show of hands of all those who are working in a iwi Māori provider service. Ka pai, put your hand up then if you're working for a tau iwi service, Mainstream, DHB, or any of those other services. Massive. So my kōrero today, I forgot that I have to do that, right. So the science of equity or inequity and the artistry of healing, and I'm just so rapt and to hear the kōrero this afternoon and to experience, and I'm not going to repeat any of the beautiful things that have happened just in the last hour, but if we can just hold on to the āhua wairua of what you have just experienced, then you'll probably be getting the full experience of what it is that I want to talk about today. So I have, in the role that I play in Te Ahu o Te Kahu, I'm the Senior Project Manager Māori for Northland. But today I'm going to speak to you from my own personal experience as a Māori nurse and to give to you what I think is the science of inequity and then the artistry of healing. Because for too long, I think we have talked about equity, but I think we will all agree that we haven't shifted inequitable health outcomes significantly enough for Māori, and we still struggle with that. And I want to make some linkages between the conversations that have happened today. In particular, if I just use some of the kōrero that's happened today, and then we don't have to make up mine, it's all real. And Lady Tureiti Moxon gave the little example about how, as you know, as a child, you might be brought up being told that you're useless, and then for the rest of your life, that makes it really difficult. I want to talk about the science of that. And I want to put that together about why artistry and why this mahi that you have seen is so important. So, and I really believe that the healer's artistry is what will overturn inequitable health outcomes. So, and this beginning was relayed beautifully by Hene Moore just a few moments ago. And if we consider that, you know, for ngā atua, we were, humankind was, he tangata was breathed into, and atua breathed into he tangata, and Te Heiwa Moriora. The breath of life came into us, and here we are. And I want to pose the question, what would happen if you understood that breathing life into the people that you meet every day is your sole purpose of working? And
as I saw the show of hands about those of us working in Tauiwi mainstream services, what would happen if the rest of our workforce, our 85% non-Māori workforce, understood that the breath of life is the thing that we want to bring into our space? And what would happen if we could make what Auko Mātua Tamati Kruger says, that Māori ora is to feel the thrill of being alive. If Māori ora is to breathe life into the spaces that we work in, and if the interpretation of that is to feel the thrill of being alive, and if experiences of ihi, wehi and wana is what sustains Māori ora, then why wouldn't we bring that to our mahi every day? And he says that it begins with unconditional acceptance. And just taking Lady Tūreiti Moxon's kōrero about being the things that we are battered with in our childhood and we carry for a long time, and how that resonates in our thinking and comes across, you know, as a vibration in our ngākau, and then comes out as a disease of some kind, some discomfort. 2 minutes, oh my gosh, I better rush. I'm just going to go quickly through this then. So Mason Jury has a way of describing Māori ora, Māori noho to Māori ora. The science I want to get to is what Dr. Takariri Rangi Smith talks about as things coming into our understanding through our ears, he rongoa tāringa, comes into our puku as a vibration and is translated outside of our body as some sort of dissonance or disharmony or disease. So if that is true, then the way to begin our healing is he rongoa tāringa, just as we have experienced today. And then that vibration will positively resonate inside of our puku and come out as something really healthy and healing. So why am I talking about this? I think that clinical competency, which we are a whole lot about in mainstream services, can be interpreted as the science of our work. So go ahead, be a surgeon, be a doctor, be whatever technical skill person you need to be, and then bring your clinical skills into a space and deliver it in a heartful way. And again, Lady Tūreiti Moxon talked about heart work. She talked about whānau being the heart of our services. If that is true, if they are the heart of our work, then heart work is the artwork. That is the artistry that we need to apply. Matters of the heart are transformed through touch, pace, timeliness, genuine interest, authenticity, and humanity. Our workforce is suffering and they're depleted and there's a lot of fatigue, and we need to help them. And the way to help them is to recognize the parallel healing process that occurs when we go to work and we lift others and we fill their cup, and even when our cup is empty, we will find ourselves more full and replenished. So be an artist, fill your cup, fill your kete, give something back. So unconditional acceptance is where it needs to start. And lots of people ask me, oh, how do I do this artful thing? So use your smiling eyes. Empathy is found in hand holding, sitting, resting, being toe with people. I want to raise this. There has been a recent survey that suggests that still we have a large number of people in our non-Māori workforce who don't understand the relevance of things Māori in our workplace. Why should we have whakatau? Why should we have karakia? Why should we have waiata? So if Tamati Kruger's comment around starting in the place of unconditional acceptance, we continue to be Māori, deliver all of the things that we are about being Māori, because the relevance is that this is the way that we demonstrate acceptance for difference. It's lovely, you know, to say the least, if somebody calls you by your name and pronounces your name correctly. A little bit of te reo is nice. But I wonder now, and I'm going to just leave you a question, that because a lot of our workforce is non-Māori, what are you going to do to value and accept their difference so that they can bring more? And as was mentioned by the wahine here just a moment ago, you know, if you want a good cook will have love in their food. A great gardener will have a beautiful garden. Those things are embellishments of our artistry in the mahi that we do. So go to work and fill your cup by helping others, but doing it because you're trying, not just trying to connect, because a Māori order encounter is not just about feeling the thrill of being alive and making other people happy, but it's making them feel like they are the most important thing. So you can learn a lot by drawing on the well of insight and intuition, and you've got a lot out of that today. So take that with you. There's a whole list of things there. I just want to leave you the whakaaro from our kaumātua at home. Mauri tū, mauri oho, mauri tau, mauri ora. And when we connect, and then when we build relationships through our science, so everybody will have their science. When you build your relationships with artistry in the front of that science, you'll find that you're able to lift the people that you're working with. So whakatairi, elevate the people. He puawai tanga hauora mo te katoa. Tēnā koutou whānau. Sorry.
Okay, so my whanaunga just goes, was that 10 minutes? I went, no. But there was actually a beautiful segue from our wānanga that we had around rongoa, and then a really good reminder for ourselves around, you know, filling our cups, giving to others, but we can do it with beauty, with artistry. So, homai te pakipaki for Hamaina. Can I just ask the rest of our speakers who are speaking this afternoon to come up on the stage? So I just want to now introduce what Ikimoki and the team are coming on. Ioana Masters, who is going to be talking about Te Mana o Te Rima. So homai te pakipaki for Ioana.
Nā ku te raurau, nā te raurau, ko ora ai te iwi. With my basket and yours, the people will thrive. Yeah. Just want to give a massive thanks to our kaihotsu for this event and for the opportunity to speak to you all about a bit of a passion project of mine that has had huge success, largely due to, I guess, the commitment of integrated care within our crew. Ko waiau, ko Ioana tōku ingoa, ko Masters tōku ingoa kōpū tangata, ko te maanga te maunga, ko awarua te awa, ko te aotonga te waka, ko Wananui a Kiva te moana, ko Kuki Airani te iwi, ko Pama te awarau te motu, ko Tapu Tapu Atia te marae. Matora nei au ki te ārawai a koutou katoa tō kia orana. Kia orana. That's the one. Yeah, plug in. It's Cook Island Language Week this week. A little bit about me. I am a Rongoa Māori practitioner, and for the past 7 years, I have predominantly been working in the rehabilitation and clinical sector, helping whānau navigate a recovery journey from physical injuries, maternal birthing injuries, but also victims of abuse through sensitive claims. I'm fortunate to be able to work closely and collectively alongside practitioners working in mainstream fields, which has broadened my understanding to the benefits of collaborative care, integrated care for whānau, but also for us as practitioners as well. Shown in these slides are my kaiako, Atarangi Muru, Wana Skipwith Lausi, Makweni Tai, and the late Manu Porewa. I owe a huge mihi to these kaiako for the support that they've given me in refining my skills as a rongoa Māori practitioner, but also in my support into entering clinical spaces as well. Today, I'm going to talk to you about my passion project, Te Mana o Te Rima, and our mahi both here in Aotearoa and also in the Cook Islands. This photo is actually of our rōpū who travelled to Rarotonga in November 2023. And we are standing with Michael Tavione, who is a tohunga whakairo, who gifted us the name, our ingoa Te Mana o Te Rima. A group of multidisciplinary practitioners working in fields from both Indigenous and mainstream backgrounds, coming together to practice collaboratively to serve community, uplifting hauora for all. So a little bit of context to help build the layers of how Te Mana o Te Rima came about. In 2021, I joined a rehabilitation clinic as a rongoa Māori practitioner, and this was actually my first hands-on experience and exposure to working with others in mainstream practice, such as physiotherapists, strength and conditioning, and also nursing as well. During our time together, we as colleagues, we as whānau, developed a really strong trust and a really large respect for each other, our pukenga, our skill sets, and our mātauranga, our knowledge. And this trust evolved because we made a real commitment to spending time in wānanga together. So during our team meetings, each one of us would get up and we would introduce ourselves, we'd introduce our role, and then we'd give a brief description of what that role was every single meeting. For me as a rongoa Māori practitioner, this was really handy because I had no understanding what contact care was. I didn't know what a lymphedema physiotherapist did. I didn't know the difference between dry needling and acupuncture. And the repetition of it helped me bridge the gap of how I understood where and how my colleagues could fit into the hauora journey of the clients that I was working with, and vice versa as well. We shared our backgrounds, we shared our learning journeys, and we shared what type of tangata whaiora we were most comfortable with, and what the limitations of what our limitations were in our scope of practice as well. And I think that's really important because not all physiotherapies are the same, and all physiotherapists are the same. As we've heard today, rongoa Māori is very vast, and our limitations are very different depending on what our experience has been. So over the next 3 years, in this clinic and out in other spaces, the core group of Te Mana o Te Rima was formed. So in 2022, when the travel bans finally lifted, I went back home, and while I was there, I had some really interesting kōrero with my family, with the locals around actually how had COVID affected them. The kōrero that stood out the very most for me were the changes in the restrictions to the referral system for those that were injured and those that were sick to travel back to Aotearoa for treatment. Due to the difficulties around travelling, heaps of them had just left it. They just decided, nah, just won't bother. But what had also happened is that because there was such a need for doctors elsewhere, it was really hard to get in to see your doctors or your nurses or anyone. And no one was utilising their traditional healers. So after this trip, I saw a real need that people weren't looking after themselves. And so I was just going to do something about it. So I came home, spoke to my tāne, put a call out to my mates and said, who's going to help me? And amazingly, about 20 of them did. So over the next 12 months, I linked up with a local GP living in Rarotonga, and we shaped and designed what this kaupapa was going to look like. We shaped and designed what the matapono were going to be, what the tumu foundations were going to be. But we made it really, really clear that actually culture and aroha had to be the foundation of this mahi, and our skill sets actually had to come second. Yeah, so plan A was actually to do very similar to how we do in Aotearoa. We take the gazebos, we take the tables, we set them up in a community space, and whoever comes to get treatment gets treatment. And then after a kōrero with Dr. Maria in Rarotonga, she said to me that she worked in different NGOs in different days, and just like that, plan A was gone, plan B was drawn in. Because it made sense to me, we were portable, the tables were portable. Why would we not enter into the spaces of their own whare, get to know them and their journey in their own safe spaces? That was how the whakawhanaungatanga was going to be real, was that we were going to come to them. We weren't going to make them come to us. And so it was decided in that planning that the priority for this trip was going to be the disabled, the elderly, and those struggling with mental health issues. I introduced myself to all the managers, told them what we were doing, what we were about, why we wanted to do it, and they accepted, and off we went. So the 3 NGOs that we decided to prioritise were the Creative Centre, a day program for adults with disabilities, physical and both physical and mental disabilities, Te Kāinga, which is a day program for adults with mental health issues, and Ari Pamitua, who looked after the elderly. So first off is the Creative Centre, and this is how we did it. We came in, spent a really long time in whakawhanaungatanga, got to know them and their spaces, got to offer what we had, but actually what we found most of all, like, yes, we had the tables, we had the kaimahi, but actually it was more about the hononga for the clients. We went one day and we set up the tables, and then we went another day and Rongoa looked totally different. Rongoa was us spending time having a jam on the karaoke, having a kani, doing a puzzle. That for them was just as much rongoa as our physiotherapists helping them on the table. Te Kāinga was also another one. As much as we had our body workers there, what they wanted was for us to join them in song and a staunch game of euchre. That was what was really important for them. And the last place we went to was Te Ari Pāmetua with the elderly. When it got to this point, actually I must say, these are the 3 that I'll show today, but actually the trip blew up a lot bigger than this, and there were many more groups after this. What I must say is that what I found at Ari Pāmetua was that we as Indigenous practitioners had a really, really close hononga with the clients that were accessing these services, because what they wanted some loving touch, they wanted someone to sit down and listen to them, they wanted the reo, they wanted the waiata, they wanted the rongoa, and that was how we uplifted their mauri. On the other hand, the people that were looking after them were connecting a lot with our GPs, our nurses, and our physiotherapists. Our physiotherapists were able to let them know, why is their body so sore? They were able to our nurses were able to let them know, why are they on these medications? What are the side effects that you should be looking at? What are the symptoms for things that you might not have heard about before? The physiotherapist could help them with mobilising their clients that were wheelchair bound, helping them with stretches. And so when we got back together as a group, we noticed that there was this really organic weave of mātauranga that had happened between us as Indigenous practitioners, but also our mainstream practitioners as well. And it really highlighted how much there is a need for both. There's room for both. And of course, yeah, it does go fast, don't it? And of course it wouldn't be able to happen without the amazing skill sets that exist within this crew. What is missing from that list is actually our kaiawhina, our people that have no bodywork or no, they are not mainstream practitioners at all. They were actually the people that were at the door greeting whānau, bringing them in, introducing them to us at the table, sharing with us the kōrero that they had gained, helping to inform them of what we were doing, and having that beautiful handover between kaiawhina, Indigenous practitioners, Western practitioners together. The tumu, the foundations of this kaupapa, first and foremost has to be about the connection. The connections between people, between land, between the history. Rongoa Māori, Indigenous healing practices had to be included. Embodying Rongoa Māori knowledge and tools to obtain kaora. And whakapapa, the acknowledgement and importance of our history and our family and the parts that it plays in our life and the part that it plays in haora as well. So just a few extra things that have come to mind. Due to this trip actually in November 2023, what has happened is now the people that we've worked with have had a complete mindset shift into how there's integrated care can look, how there is room for both and how each is just as important as each other. It's not about trying to force them together, but how can they work parallel and weave in and out amongst each other, making sure that the whānau feels really safe and really heard, and picking out the parts and pieces from the crew and the people that are surrounded by you to help make that happen. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa.
Fabulous. That was a fabulous presentation and a fabulous example of leadership in action and leading by example and showing the way of what's expected, and from that others now can see what can be done. So big acknowledgement to you, Ioana. Mai te whakapakeanga. So at this time I'd like to welcome Jamie Toko. And Jamie, we haven't even had a chance to have it yet. But Jamie's going to speak about a project or tātou?
Māori Motu Whakapiri.
Oh, Māori Motu Whakapiri. Okay, ka pai.
Kia ora.
Do you want a 1 minute call?
Yeah.
You're right.
Kei te pai. Kia ora mai tātou, nā mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa. I'm still waking up from that session after lunch. It's hard enough that you have to wake up after lunch, but then when you get a whole hour of just beautiful, nothingness and just chilling, yeah. So this might be really, really quick or might drag on. So just give me a nudge to get me going. So, Ngāti Maniapoto. Ka pai, do you accept me, Ngāti Maniapoto? Because actually I'm Ngāti Whātua, Ngāpuhi, and Tainui. Okay, te pai. I'm a senior advisor for Te Whatuora in the Haora Māori Services. So we transferred from Te Ako Whaiora, lifted, shifted and landed into Te Whatuora, which I have to say is a beautiful experience because we get to look after everybody as well. And we also take our Māori lens to Te Whatuora. So, but the mahi today is, that's what this is for. Hey. Te ropu wahine Māori toko i te ora. Is there any league members in the house? Lucky you. I was going to bring you up to help me with my presentation. One of our ladies couldn't be here with me today, Marama Parore, because she's in another hui in Wellington today. But we whipped this PowerPoint up as quick as we could to talk about who we are. So we're tātou, that's exactly what it means. Tātou is we do things differently in the league because we can, because we want to, and as Māori, we can. So You might get, if you join the league, you might get a badge. Well, you will get a badge. You'll get some earrings, but you also bring your courage to have your own autonomy in any platform or forum. And that's what I love about the Māori Women's Wāpi League, is you get to have a say. Even when they don't want to listen to you, you get to have a say. And you don't leave the room or leave the kaupapa until you've had your say. So I hear all the beautiful things that you're saying today. A little bit of league influence behind you would be even stronger for you. So who are we? Yes, we are the nannies. We're the aunties. We're the sisters. And we are the daughters. We're old, but we're young, and some of us like to think we're still young. We're doctors, lawyers, teachers, students, gardeners, chefs, and businesswomen. And we're everyday women. So it's not a movement. It's just the fact that we like to belong to an organisation that gets heard, where the government listens to wahine Māori in our rōpū. We have 150 peka, which is branches around the motu. We have 8 rohe in the league, covering all of Aotearoa, and also Perth in Australia, Melbourne in Australia, and soon to be Adelaide. So we've got whānau over there, like to join. Ka pai. We also have 3,500 members. I'm just one wahine Māori amongst all of those women that want to do things right, want to make sure that the government's held to account for our rangatahi and for our mokopuna. We have just recently joined, made a connection with Te Whatuora to deliver breast screening promotions. Who better than the league to talk to our 3,500 wahine? Have you had a mammogram? Have you been screened? Because we are the lowest, as well as Pasifika wahine, we are the lowest screened whānau in the country. So we have networks and connections. So we have clinicians that do breast screening in the league, and we have retired clinicians. We have school teachers and doctors in the league, and we have retired doctors and school teachers. So we're right across the board in terms of who we connect with and who we can contact. It is about elevating our wahine Māori voice. We've been advocating for healthy lifestyles for decades. We're 73 years old, not me, not yet. And we have conducted health promotion activities in our community for a few years now. So we already do immunisation, and we're probably the best organisation to deliver immunisation promotions. That's because the door doesn't close on us when we go into the whare. When we walk down the driveway, we knock on the door, they see a nanny standing there going, "I'm here to see if your tamariki have been immunised, dear." That person will say, come in, auntie, a cup of tea. But if you send somebody from a tauiwi organisation, you'll get the door slammed in your face. We know that. So that's why we do it. So we do have a huge reach into our community. Our 5 key areas of focus for our breast screening promotion is education and training, which is going to be provided by Te Whatuora. Screening program for our members, which we will provide for our members. Health promotions, again, that's something we do. Communication and regional and national activities, we do that. That's all about what the breast screening is going to be offering us. Screening program, our goal is to screen all our aunties, all our sisters, all our wahine, and encourage them to have mammograms. If they've never had a mammogram, then we will encourage our members to have them. And we'll do that through branches and pika. So I'm the regional president for Tainui, Māori Women's Welfare League. We have 28 branches that range from here to Puaha or Waikato, all the way to Tauranga and all the way to Tikuiti, Kawhia, Moana, and a little bit of Maniapoto as well. And like I said before, we already have breast screening clinicians and retired clinicians in the league that are going to be champions for our women to be able to encourage them to have mammograms. So how are we going to do that? Through our regional leadership to the PICA, from the PICA to the regional leadership, activating our networks. And on the other side is these are all the organisations that we associate with. That's just a few that we've put up there. MWDI is the financial arm to the Māori Women's Welfare League. So we don't have any money. They have all our money. But like a good, I guess like a good organisation, we need that pūtea, we need that we need that strength and guidance and governance at a high level. So just quickly, I remember going to a hui and they said, people said to us, "Oh, Australia, you fellas have cake stalls and do arts and crafts and knitting and crocheting." Well, yeah, we do, but now it's called raranga and kite whakairo, you know, and rongoa. That's what it's called today. Same thing, but we're doing it now in the 21st century. I think that's everything. That's how we've made ourselves accountable to our breast screening mahi. This is for 12 months. We're totally committed to screening all of our women. I'm proud to be part of Pai Whakatere, which is an advisory group that have been working for the last 12 months on breast screening outcomes for wahine Māori in our Pacifica whānau. So, and Dr. Nina Gott will be speaking not long after me, and she'll be giving a rundown of what that mahi's been about. That's it. Kia ora. Oh, but I will sing you a song, you know. That's what the league does. Waia te tautoko. You're all going to be able to write it down, because it's not very long. I'm going to sing you a song, and it's not very long, and it's finished. Kia ora.
Thank you, Jamie, and a big acknowledgement to the Māori Women's Welfare League that have been going since the early 1950s, and there's a lot of mama, aunties, nannies who have given lots and lots of time to make a difference for our whānau. So you can see the connections. So I think we've had a great example with Ioana looking at one example of working with the community, and then Jamie's given us another example. So when we're working with the community, there's not one size that fits all, but it's an and, whatever's relevant. So again, a big paki for Jamie. So our next speaker before we have morning tea. Hey, I've said that 3 times now, I think, hey. Oh, geez, I must be in tomorrow. Before we have afternoon tea, a brief afternoon tea, is Iki Moke. And he's now with the Health and Disability Commission, no stranger to this area and this region. And so let's have a big warm welcome for Iki Moke, who's talking about the whānau voice and service improvement. It's all you. Do you want 1 minute?
Anō reira tēnā tātou, e me kawana ki ngā kai whakataki I mui ahau. And because Tanya is a sharpshooter, look, I would have sung you a song and rapped you a rap and even blown the pukaya, but we've only got 15 minutes. Well, we're going to get stuck straight into it, eh? Yeah, where do we start? Right, that's the bio. Can we go straight into the, yes, I've got the clicker here. I'm not used to having all the power. It's very interesting how I become one of the last speakers. If you don't know, HDC is the independent watchdog of all health services who provide services to our whānau. So very, very interesting, Nina. I think this is all a setup. Anyway, we're going to talk to you about this, about HDC, the Health and Disability Commissioner. But before we do, I'm going to break this up into 3 sections. Who, what, and how. 1 is who are we? 2 is what do we do? And 3 is how do we do it? So if I can ask you, does anybody know who the Health and Disability Commissioner is? Yep. No? Yep. Or yes, all you clinicians would, wouldn't you? What about any of our whānau? No? Cool. How many of you have had a Health and Disability Commissioner representative even come to any of your kaupapa? No? Yeah, cool. Even better. Choice, really, real big setup. So then, who are we? Does anybody know the Cartwright Inquiry? Yep, all of our ruri, all of our aunties here would know. In 1987, 1988, and again, I'm not picking on clinicians, but some clinicians decided to play God. And they gave some of our wahine medication and not, and they wanted to see what would happen. Well, many of our wahine lost their lives. This inquiry was led by Judge Sylvia Cartwright, and it was a watershed moment in patient rights. Watershed, I had to look that word up. What does watershed mean? Well, it means a breakthrough. It was a breakthrough for patient rights, not only here in New Zealand, but globally. We set the standard. Through this big, huge mishap, we were able to set the standard for patient rights. And these patient rights have the force of the law behind them. Never ever knew that before. And here I was the director of Tikanga for the Waikato District Health Board for many years, and only seen health HDC as the red posters on the wall. Never ever understood who we were. The Cartwright Inquiry gave the creation of the role of the Health and Disability Commissioner. These are some of the benefits that come out of it. As I said, watershed moment for patient rights. Gave patient rights the force of the law. And you know, you fellas talk about patient-centered healthcare system. Well, back then, that's what they told you fellas to do. That's what they told the health system to do, is to have a patient-centered healthcare system. And 30 years later, we're still trying to get that or achieve that. And of course, after establishing the Health and Disability Commissioner, we created the Consumer Code of Rights. Pretty much the Bible, whānau. Let's go through some of those stuff. So really the purpose of HDC is to promote and protect consumer rights. Any consumer who accesses any health services, whether those health services be public and or private, you have the responsibility of upholding the Consumer Code of Rights. And I've already